Hello world, and welcome to the Genesis Bible study. Today we're at lesson 3, where we'll be looking at day 2 in the creation and talking about the creation of the heavens and what it means when the Bible says an expanse or a firmament. Firmament would be the old word as is used in the King James or the New King James. More modern translations use expanse. You'll see when I read the word expanse because I'm using the English Standard Version for the study. Let's start by reading the text. It says in Genesis 1, verse 6, "And God said, Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that are under the expanse from the waters that are above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven. And this was evening and morning, the second day." So that brings us to the question, of course, what is expanse? As I said, the English Standard Version, which I read, uses it. Many modern translations do. The King James and New King James would use firmament, as do the older. The Hebrew word there is what is rakia. So what is a rakia? Now, one of the theories that has come from this text is what we call the canopy theory. And it is basically the idea that there is above our atmosphere, or was, a layer of ice or water that helps protect the earth from harmful radiation. So that's pretty much what it is. People use the text when it says, during the flood, the windows of heavens were opened, that this is the canopy breaking, and this is used as support for the idea that we had water around it. If this was true, one of the things we'd have to see is that the earth would have, much earlier, would have had a very subtropical climate. We do see that. There would be no ice at the poles at that point in time. There would be an increased plant growth, which would be wonderful to make oil and coal and all the things we see under the earth. There would also be very, very different wind systems, and there would be no rain. But there are problems with this theory. The biggest one being that when we say subtropical climate, we actually have the problem that it gets extremely hot in the computer models. And there is no solution for cooling off the world. You've got to remember that one of the things that heats up the planet is not only the solar rays, but also the greenhouse gases we have, of which water vapor is the biggest one. So if you put enough water in the atmosphere, it will get hotter and hotter. And if you put water around the outside, again, it's going to increase the temperatures. And also, problem with rakia is it's very often a question of what's the context of the text saying. So we're talking about sky, atmosphere, space. What exactly do we mean? Now, I personally think that rakia in Genesis 1 has to be this as what we call space, or the universe. Because it says in verse 14 of Genesis 1, "Let there be lights in the expanse of heavens," rakia, "to separate the day from night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens," rakia, "to give light on the earth." And it was so. And this is where God makes the sun, the moon, and the stars. He didn't put them in the atmosphere or in the canopy. He put them in space. In other words, the context of Genesis 1 means we're talking about space. And then when you read the Bible, it's very clear that God did create everything out there. It says in Isaiah 51, "Have you forgotten the Lord, your maker, who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth?" In other words, what we see is we do see the universe is expanding as if it's still being stretched out. And yet God says it's what he did. In other words, it's very clear when you read the context, we're talking about something else. I mean, the term stretched out in the heavens, we see also in Zechariah, it's actually found in the Bible 11 times. And it's very clear that there is something beyond just our planet when it talks about stretched out the heavens, and that's what we call space. But then we come back to the question, what does it mean separating the waters and the waters above the expanse or outside space? Well, there's a very interesting text in Revelations where John is taken up into heaven, and it says, "At once I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne stood in heaven, and he was brought to God's domain, heaven." And in verse 6 of Revelations 4, it says, "And before the throne there was, as it were, a sea of glass, like crystal." And now it makes me wonder, and I cannot prove this because I haven't been there, but could it be that the floor of heaven is a solid version of the waters which are on the outside of the universe? I don't know. we can't study it. We've never been to the edge of the universe, so we don't know what's out there. But interesting things to speculate on. But pretty much in short, I do not look at the separation and expanse, meaning we had a canopy of water around our planet. It just isn't feasible. Anyway, I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions, please do put them in the comments. I will be doing a Q&A on the study in the end if I have enough questions. So do leave them in the comments. Also, let me know what you think. If you have a theory as to what the expanse is, also put it down there. Or if you have a solution for the problems with the canopy theory, the heat and such, also please do let us know. Like and subscribe like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I wish you all to keep well and God bless.